This is the Extratime.com League of Ireland Voice Notes podcast. I'm Oisin Langan. Shelbourne have gone 6 points clear at the top of the table with a 2-0 victory against Shamrock Rovers, who are third on 28 points. Derry sandwiched in between following their 2-2 draw with Sligo Rovers. They're on 31 points. We'll be hearing from Barry Murphy, former Shamrock Rovers, St Pat's and Bohemians goalkeeper, on that game at Tallaght Stadium. Will Jarvis scoring 2 penalties to settle it. We'll also hear from Dalymount Park, where Bohs drew 2-2 with St Pat's in what was an exciting game. Donal Ryan watched Sligo Rovers get that 2-2 draw that we mentioned against Derry City, while Dundalk played their first game under manager John Daly, but they lost 2-0 against Galway United. There was Thursday night football this week. Did you like it? Did you think it worked? Wasn't it an enjoyable game? Well, we'll hear from it. Padraig Amond scored a hat-trick in that match for Waterford. We spoke to him after the game and his young son Owen, and we'll also hear from a very disappointed Drogheda United manager Kevin Doherty. First up, let's go to Tallaght Stadium. The analysis of Barry Murphy to come, but first, Extratime.com's Ronan McNamara was there, and afterwards sent us this voice note.
Thanks, Oisin. And Shelbourne sent out a massive title statement here tonight, beating Shamrock Rovers by 2-0 for their first away league win over the hoops since 2005. Will Jarvis was at double from the penalty spot in either half to send Shells on their way to a third win in a week and condemn Shamrock Rovers to their 5th league defeat of the season, which is more than they suffered in the entirety of last season. Pico Lopez was sent off for 2 yellow cards after bringing Matty Smith down twice, but to be fair, there was little he could do, with the penalty chances coming from self-inflicted wounds from Shamrock Rovers, with Josh Honohan letting the Conor Kearns goal kick sail over his head and into the path of Matty Smith, while Matty Smith pounced on a misplaced Marcus Poom pass and he was played in then by Will Jarvis, leaving Pico Lopez with no choice but to bring him down. It was an interesting start to the half. Rovers hit the woodwork twice and Johnny Kenny couldn't turn home Graham Burcross from about 2 or 3 yards, and a pretty decent performance just completely unravelled instantly as Jarvis put Shells ahead just after the Johnny Kenny chance from the Conor Kearns goal kick, and then within the space of 15 minutes Shamrock Rovers' injury problems, which have plagued their entire season really, reared their ugly head, with Trevor Clark, Dan Cleary and Josh Honohan going off in the space of 15 minutes in the first half. So all of a sudden they're going into the dressing room having played pretty okay, but self-inflicted wounds and 3 freak injuries turned it into a nightmare first half, and they never really got going in the second half. Then Marcus Poom gave the ball away to Matty Smith and he sent Will Jarvis away 10 minutes into the second half, and Jarvis, to be fair, showed great composure to slide it through to Smith again, and he kind of just waited for Lopez to slide in and make the challenge, and so he did, and Jarvis put the ball into the roof of the net from the spot 10 minutes into the second half. A man up, 2 goals up, and the game was pretty much over at that stage. Shelbourne looked very comfortable from there, held on handily enough, and their title bid has legs again. Having won once in 9 games, they were still top of the league, but the gap had closed. Now with 3 wins in the space of a week, they're 6 points clear of Derry, 9 points clear of Rovers, and they now have clear daylight, and you'd have to say they're the favourites at the moment, because we're now just over halfway into the Premier Division season, and what a season it's been, and what a summer of football it's looking to be.
Extratime.com's Ronan McNamara reporting from Tallaght Stadium, where Shelbourne beat Shamrock Rovers by 2-0. Now, after the game, Barry Murphy, former St Pat's, Bohs and Shamrock Rovers goalkeeper, joined me from just behind the stand in Tallaght Stadium, and he was amongst the Shelbourne supporters as they were leaving. They were very, very quiet. I thought they'd be shouting and singing and just expressing joy. But no, they were very calm and reserved. And maybe that's because their manager, Damien Duff, after the game, when he was in front of the supporters, was kind of touching his chest. He wasn't beating his chest, he was touching his chest, but he was also giving the kind of the calm down motion with his 2 palms out and kind of pushing them down towards the ground. So they were thinking of getting carried away perhaps, but he wasn't letting them. Anyway, this is what Barry had to say about the match after the game, and particularly that moment where Damien Duff encouraged calm amongst the supporters.
They wanted a Jurgen Klopp beating the chest moment, and Damon was coming over, looked like he was going to do it. But listen, I think he knows what a massive win it is. But in the grand scheme of things,
Yeah.
it's still early enough in the season, and Shamrock Rovers, the juggernaut that they are, and what they've shown over the last couple of seasons, can always close that gap. So listen, they don't want to get ahead of themselves yet, but it's a massive performance and a big win for Chelsea.
Well, you tell the fans around you for the podcast. The sound of them cheering and shouting would really help us out. It would sound great. Look,
Yeah.
we've talked through the goals and the penalties. What about the and we will get to Shamrock Rovers. What about the performance overall from Shelbourne? I presume they were better start to finish. It wasn't just those kind of like they didn't get lucky twice. They were definitely penalties from what I could see, but overall they were the better team.
Yeah, they weren't. They weren't. Shamrock Rovers had nearly 70% possession, even with 10
Oh
men. It
wow,
was
okay.
incredible, really. They hit the post twice in the first 10 minutes. Trevor Clark hit the inside of the post. It scurried across the line and outside. And Johnny Kenny had a great chance to put them 1-0 up. Graham Burke flashed it across the 6 yard line. He just couldn't get his foot to it. But listen, Shells have done what they've done the last couple of weeks against Pats. You thought Pats were going to go on and get the winner in that game, and Shells came out on top. They're just so well drilled. It's incredible just looking at it. They're staggered line when a ball comes into the box as well. If Paddy Barrett doesn't win it, Malloy's behind him, or Sean Gannon's the other side. It's lovely to watch from a goalkeeping point of view because you can see how well drilled they are defensively. And again, they counter so well. But Jarvis is just a lovely player to watch. And him and Matty Smith, Sean Boyd is on the bench tonight. Matty Smith started up top tonight, and yeah, they were just excellent.
I hate to sound like I'm pulling excuses out of the bag for Shamrock Rovers here, but would you say that their best players have yet to hit peak fitness and they are getting closer to that as the weeks move on? Granted, they are now 9 points behind the leaders. Shamrock Rovers are in third, Derry are in second, and Shelbourne are on top.
It's incredible, really. Like you're looking at getting these lads back and giving them minutes into the legs, but every time they go to with a structured way of bringing them, integrating them back into the team, someone else goes down. Josh Honan came off tonight with a concussion injury. Trevor Clark came off injured, and Dan Cleary came off. So you've got Aaron McAniff getting extra minutes that he didn't need. He was probably going to come on the second half. Like just it's Lee Grace had to come on and play a centre half after half an hour, and you could see he just wasn't up to speed as well. It's the way they probably planned out his integration back into the team was hoping it was going to be the last 20 minutes or when Sean Boyd came on in a reaction to that, come back and deal with that threat height wise. But listen, and then it's when you force people to come back from injuries like that when they're not ready, things are going to happen, and that's happening for Shamrock Rovers at the moment.
And we've been saying this for a number of weeks. Well, I have. It's going to come right, and they're going to Man City it until the end of the season. I'm not sure they are. Now, that doesn't mean they won't win the league, but if they are, it's going to be one hell of a dogfight, and they still have the personnel to do it. It's about whether or not those personnel are fit enough.
Yeah, listen, the last 4 years, they've won it different ways every time. They were 12 points behind at one stage and they came back and won it. They've been in the lead, a huge lead in different stages as well. So listen, if you're going to win a league, there's these little hurdles that you have to get by. And we were talking about it earlier for Shells as well. They haven't come here and won, I don't think, ever since Tallaght has opened. They've never had an away win here. Not to my knowledge anyway. So that's another little hurdle for them. But for Shamrock Rovers, it's just going to be a different way of doing it this time. It's going to be the Sonia O'Sullivan final leg of the race, really, to get around that corner and try and beat the Romanian on the line.
Wow, you're old. You're a lot older than I thought. You know that? That's the reference that you were making.
I just watch old clips on YouTube. That's it.
The finishing kick, as they used to call it, and it's worth
Yeah.
a look for those of you who don't know what Barry is saying. Some real sporting history there that Barry is bringing up. What about Shelbourne? Damien Duff will try and calm it down, but we now have to accept and even get excited about them being in contention for the league title. You can't throw cold water over this argument anymore. They are very much contenders.
Well, he was playing I don't know how many points we are ahead of him in the interview with Con before the game. Con said, if you win tonight, you could go 9 points clear, and he kind of feigned disinterest, as in he didn't know that was the case. But listen, they've been brilliant, and listen, what they've done, him and his staff have an excellent eye for a player. Like when you look at what it's done, they've replaced Brendan Clark with Conor Kearns last year. And people may have scoffed at the signings of Sean Boyd, Matty Smith, Mark Hoyle, John O'Sullivan, players who haven't reached the heights or continuity of performance that kind of was expected at other clubs, and that you might have expected they wouldn't really bring Shells on to the next level, but they have. They've been the best in class in terms of this season, and that encapsulated with the kind of world-class basics that he's really employed in terms of defensive way and structure. They've just been brilliant this year.
2 questions before you go. I was on the St. Pat's app coverage of Pats and Bows, and Stephen Finn, well-known football writer and coach, said that he'd be looking at Mark Coyle for the Ireland squad because that's one area where perhaps we are a little bit light, and he could be the answer, or certainly part of the squad. Do you think that's a possibility? Do you think that's a runner?
He's been phenomenal. I would have seen him over the years playing for Finn Harps and all that. And as good a player as he was, I just didn't think he had these levels in him, and it's consistent as well. He's added a passing range to his game and a calmness on the ball as well. He's pirouetting in midfield and spraying passes out behind fullbacks. He's been incredible for tonight, and he's really taken on that leadership mantle as well from Luke Byrne taking the captaincy this year, and he's just been exceptional. But as I said, he's made every player out there better, from the goalkeeper to the centre forwards. They've been incredible, really.
So you wouldn't be too surprised if he got called into the squad? I know it's a big leap, but it was just when Stephen said it, I actually started thinking about it, and I thought, yeah, he's a busy midfielder. He can win tackles. He can spray the ball around. Maybe if he does it in Europe, an Ireland manager will think, yeah, maybe there's something in this guy.
Yeah, you just see with Ireland managers in the past, they've kind of waited for Europe to see how a player does in Europe before really giving them the call up. But listen, he warrants it at the moment. If you're looking at players in the league who could step up, he's definitely one of them.
And if Damien Duff is writing your reference, you have an even bigger chance. Like whoever the permanent manager is going to be, if Duff gives him a ring and says, "Listen, I think you need to have a look at this guy," you'll entertain him. I can't imagine anyone not listening to Damien Duff. That's for sure and certain. One more question before you go, Barry. On Thursday, you got to play with some legends ahead of the Europa League final. Tell me what that was like.
That's incredible. Listen, I got the call on Saturday asking if I'd be around to play a four-side game. I've got that call many times, but it's usually with my mates in the Astro. It's a little bit different this time. Turned up at the Shelbourne, and my first introduction was to open the door, and Stephen Freund to stand there in his boxes, shaking my hand and welcoming me in. So, yeah, the nerves kind of went in, and listen, it was brilliant. So I got to play with Ashley Cole, Perez, Diego Forlan, all these great players, and my old mate Gareth Farley, who blamed me for getting him the sack when I saved the penalty against Bows all those years ago. But we great banter as well, and just lovely lads, and a great way to go and see the game after it as well.
Yeah, Gareth Farley, who scored a cracker to keep Everton in the Premier League all those years ago, and did many other things as well. Thank you very much for joining us, Barry Murphy, former Shamrock Rovers, St. Pat's and Bows keeper. You were in Tallaght Stadium to watch Shelbourne get, I was about to say it, and it was nearly out of force of habit, a shock 2-0 win. It's not a shock. They're a good team. They're top of the league, and there's a reason for that. Barry, thank you.
No bother, Oisin. Nice talking to you.
So not just a great 24 hours on the field for Paddy Barrett. I saw this tweet late on Friday night where it says, this is Paddy Barrett writing it and posting it: "We welcomed our twin boys into the world, Sonny and Cruz Barrett. Them and Mum are doing well. They will continue to thrive, no doubt. A nice win tonight to top off an amazing 24 hours. Congratulations to Paddy Barrett and his family." And he sums it up nicely, doesn't he? An amazing 24 hours. We've talked about the first place team, Shells. We've talked about the third place team, Shamrock Rovers. Let's talk about the second place team, Derry City, who drew 2-2 with Sligo Rovers at the Ryan McBride Brandywell. Ocean FM, LOI TV and Extratime.com reporter Donal Ryan was there, and afterwards he sent us this voice note.
Thanks, Oisin. Yeah, full time here in the Ryan McBride Brandywell Stadium, and it's finished Derry City 2, Sligo Rovers 2, and my God, what a cracking game we had here in the Brandywell this evening. Rovers came flying out of the traps, a completely different style of play and a completely different look inside to what we saw on Friday night against Bohemians in the showgrounds, and started on the front foot and were definitely the brighter. Derry just couldn't cope with them in the opening half of the first half, and Rovers deservedly went ahead on 18 minutes rather, somewhat fortuitously, as Reece Hutchinson got away down the left hand side, chipped the ball to the back post but inadvertently chipped it in to the back of the net. An absolutely fantastic goal, and whether he meant it or not, only he will know. Rovers went in at the break 1-0 up. Derry City rang the changes at half time, and they were telling. Cameron McJanet, who was dropped for the first time when fit under Rory Higgins, came straight back in, as did Patrick McElhenney, and the third change was Cameron Dummigan, and all three of them were really influential in the second half. Derry equalised with about 10 minutes gone in the second half as Dummigan switched the ball into the middle of the Rovers half to Patrick Hoban, who took a ball down on his chest, did a bicycle kick over the top of the defence. J.R. Wilson looked like he had it under control, but a poor touch from him let Michael Duffy in and put the chance on a plate for him. He slotted in behind Ed McGinty to make it 1-1. But then Sligo Rovers, against the run of play, came back surging into the lead. It was all Derry City as they looked to press and go on ahead, but a poor clearance from Brian Maher fell to Niall Morahan some 40 yards out from goal. He took the ball down on his chest and just drove into the box and smashed an excellent finish down into the bottom corner without even breaking his stride, and Rovers were back in front. The game swung though once again in favour of Derry as Paul McMullen got away down the right hand side, drew a foul from Rhys Hutchinson in the box, which looked somewhat harsh, it has to be said, but the referee Rob Hennessy pointed for the spot and gave a penalty. Patrick Hoban looked like he was going to step up and take it, but his record against Ed McGinty from the spot is poor. He left it for Will Patching, who put it into the bottom right corner despite McGinty going the right way and almost getting a hand to it. It was helter-skelter then for the end as Derry City looked to press for a winner, but Sligo Rovers clung on for what could be a massive point at the bottom of the table. Full time here in the Brandywell, it's finished Derry City 2, Sligo Rovers 2.
Extratime.com's Donal Ryan, who was at the Ryan McBride Brandywell to see the 2-2 draw between Derry and Sligo Rovers. Right, let's go to Dalymount Park to find out what happened between Bohemians and St Patrick's Athletic. Stephen Finn, well-known journalist and football coach, was watching this for the St Pat's watch party along with Aoife Mullen. Before we get his analysis, let's hear from Extratime.com's Patrick O'Connor, who was at Dalymount Park and afterwards sent us this voice note.
Game has just finished and the final score was 2 each, 2-2, share of the points. 4,431 people crammed into Dalymount tonight, and it really was a cracking game. We had an injury as early as the 10th second, just after the kick-off. A really unfortunate injury to Rory Keating. From the kick-off, the ball was played down to Keating in the air. Keita, the Bohemian sub, challenged him quite fairly. Keating went down and he required a lot of medical attention. Eventually stretchered off. Seems like it's concussion. Let's hope he's okay. But the game was delayed for 10 minutes when it did get going. Pats were forced to take the lead through a penalty. The ball bobbled around the box. Melia was fouled and Chris Forrester stepped up to slam it home to make it 1-0 to Pats. So they recovered very well from that unfortunate injury to Keating, with Cian Kavanagh, the sub, making an impact straight away. Bowes drew level on the 40th minute. The ball was played in behind Jay McClelland, who was playing left back for Pats tonight in the absence of Anto Breslin, but he couldn't stop Dylan Connolly getting to the ball before him. Connolly whipped it across, and there was Akintunde to finish it first time into the net to make it 1-0. We had 11 minutes of additional time because of that injury to Rory Keating, and in about the 6th minute of that added time, Pats took the lead, and again it was the substitute Cian Kavanagh who struck it home after good work and an assist by Palmer. 2-1 at the break. Start of the second half was a bit scrappy, but Bowes piled on an awful lot of pressure in the second period of the second half. Alan Reynolds made quite a number of substitutions, and 2 of those were directly involved in the equaliser. The ball was played down the wing to Nicholas Okusun, who did well. He played it back to Akintunde, and when Akintunde whipped it in, Danny Grant, who had also come on as a sub, sent a looping header past Danny Rogers in the goal, to the delight of the Bohemians fans. So that was in the 93rd minute. There was still another 3 minutes or so left. No further scores, and as I said at the outset, it finished 2-2, a share of the points. Really good game. Great advertisement for the league. Still no win, but at least a point for Stephen Kenny in his new role at St Patrick's Athletic. Probably be a bit disappointed because they were within 2 or 3 minutes of getting all 3 points, but it wasn't to be. So that's it. Dalymount Park, Bohemians 2, St Patrick's Athletic 2.
A big thank you to Extratime.com's Patrick O'Connor for sending us that voice note from Dalymount Park. Now, as I mentioned, the game was covered live on the St Pat's app. Aoife Mullen hosts a watch party every Friday night or Monday night or Tuesday night or whenever it is that St Pat's play. The guest this week was well-known football writer and coach Stephen Finn, and afterwards this was his reaction.
Yeah, I think you have to be objective and say that it was definitely a draw in regards to the fairest outcome for how the game played out. Now, Pats were the better team in the first half. They deserve to be ahead. both were the better team in the second half, and they deserved to equalise. It's just frustrating, I suppose, that when the opportunity came to kill it off, the counter-attack, especially the one where Levy created the chance for Kavanagh, Cian Kavanagh's shot went wide. If that at least forces a corner, maybe they score from the set piece. But, it would have been brilliant for him to bang in the number 3 goal that would have killed the match off. But it's great for him to get that first goal this season. It was a great finish after a really good play by Palmer. There was a lot of positives, but also a reminder also that it's still a long journey to getting where we want to be, which is winning matches and, really moving up the table. The point doesn't change an awful lot, but will at least stop the slide of the negative results. Like the performances against Derry and Shells were adequate, but they didn't do enough to see the result out. And then to concede late on again, that was why Rodgers, I'm sure, was so frustrated, because they had showed great character to defend so well. They were brave. They were getting ahead to things. They were taking no chances. They were clearing. It's just probably when you're in the Alamo, eventually an arrow will get you, and that's exactly what happens, unfortunately.
It's just, I suppose, frustrating from the Pats' point of view that they weren't able to hang on to that lead. But again, at least they've got 1 point on the board, as you say, and they're leaving Dalymount, which is a tough place to go with a point. I
would say ultimately, they, being competitive players, they'll be really frustrated. They've had a lot of change within the club. A new manager's come in, 3 games in such a short period of time. They've put a huge amount of effort in, and you want to be rewarded with your effort. And ultimately, 3 points is the reward that they wanted, and they probably would have seen it as a chance to show we're heading in the right direction here. Conceding late on last Monday, and even if you look at the Derry goal came, I think in around 75th minute or something. So, there are elements that the team will know they want to iron out, and this is what we spoke about earlier on, where if they're going to go and become a team that's moving in the right direction, they need to be getting clean sheets.
This is the Extratime.com League of Ireland Voice Notes podcast, coming to you from the RSC on Thursday night, where Waterford have beaten Drogheda by 4 goals to 2. They were 2-0 down, but a Padraig Amond hat-trick and a goal from local lad Dara Power lifted the Blues. And it's lifted them up to 4th position, and they do have games in hand on the top 3. Padraig Amond hadn't scored in 7 games up till tonight. He's now on 8 for the season. Let's get some reaction from Waterford's win over Drogheda. The final score here, 4-2.
I know I am a sure I'm a blue, still undone. Blue is still undone. Hello, boys.
And after I was serenaded by the Waterford fans, I was joined pitchside by Padraig Amond and his 3-year-old son Owen, along with Waterford FC press officer Killian McHale, who, by the way, could not have been more helpful, and we're very grateful to him.
Come over here, stand beside me, we'll do this talking, okay?
This is the Extratime.com League of Ireland Voice Notes podcast, and we're on the pitch with Padraig Amond, who has just scored a hat-trick for Waterford FC in a 4-2 win against Drogheda United. First of all, who's your strike partner beside you here?
That's my son Owen. He's there tonight and he's delighted. He's after getting a little match ball to go home with tonight, so yeah, he's delighted. So yeah, that's my little boy. I've got a little girl as well. She's 1 next week, so but she a bit too late for her tonight.
Are they both strikers like you?
He's only 3, so he had his first Gaelic training session 2 weeks ago. Okay. So he's going to be probably getting ready to go do soccer training, or he's mad for it at the minute. So he's loving sport, but no, there's no pressure on him to do anything. It's whatever he wants to do. You love everything, don't you, Oney? Yeah. So
he looks like he could be a good hurler. Do you know that?
Well, he's been
like yourself.
He's been out practicing his hurling after the Carlow and Kilkenny game a couple of weeks ago, and then the day after at the Carlow Laois game, he was out practicing his football because his uncle was after scoring a couple of goals late on. So we've had a good few weeks with it all, and he's mad for it all now. which is great, to get involved in any sport for any young boy is brilliant. So he can do whatever he wants when he wants, and there'll be no pressure from daddy on it at all or anything like that. And if he doesn't want to go, he doesn't have to go, but as long as he's happy, that's all that matters.
A bit like you in the second half there, you could do whatever you wanted, whenever you wanted. Talk me through your hat-trick.
Look, it was... the first one's a great ball in from Ben. Good teamwork as well. From us, a good passage of play. It was an important goal as well at the time because it gets us right back into the game. The second one, Melissa was brilliantly on the outside, puts the ball across and I can't really miss. And then the third one, I've just kind of anticipated Dean Max slicing it, and he reckons he meant it. But yeah, no, right place, right time, and important goal for us because it gives us that, that G open to go 3-2 up, and especially when you're 2-0 down, to go 3-2 up as quick as we did. It was huge for us. And then obviously we got the fourth goal, which was the killer goal.
And it was quite the response because you were 1-0 down at half time. Then they score pretty much immediately after the kickoff of the second half. And you responded well. Where did that response come from? Because I'd imagine the message was get out there and focus and play well in the second half, and then you concede straight away. And sometimes a team can go backwards when that happens, but you didn't. Yeah,
look, we changed a couple of things at half time, and the goal we conceded didn't come from that. So it was more a case of we knew we could cause problems, and I suppose if there is a time you're going to concede, you might as well concede at the very, very start, and you still have all that time to if we conceded in the 60th minute and go 2-0 down, it's an uphill battle then to get back in the game. But we had enough time, and I said to the lads at half time as well, like, we conceded first up there against Tallaght earlier on the season and scored 4, so I didn't say like we were definitely going to score 4, but I knew we had the opportunity. We did it early in the season and we did score 4, so it was just a great second half performance from us, and to obviously get that first goal was so important, and I think we went for the jugular then, which was really important, and we didn't sit back when I got the 2 as well, and we looked for 3 and we looked for 4. Then when I got the 4, we looked comfortable. It didn't look like we were going to concede. If anything, we looked like we might have nipped another one in, but yeah, really good performance in the second half from us.
No goals in 7 for you coming into this, but you strike me as the kind of guy who actually isn't that concerned with that so long as the team are doing their thing. But I imagine it's nice to get the hat-trick all the same.
Oh, yeah, look, it is. There's no point denying that, but I was happy because I'm playing well.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, that's what it's about. Like, I think people speak about the modern day number 9 and modern day striker. They don't score as many goals as what they used to do. It's the wingers who score the goals now, and the number 9 or the main striker is the one who kind of is involved in a lot of the donkey work and the build-up play. So it doesn't bother me if I don't score as long as the team win and as long as I'm contributing. And I feel like I have been contributing to the team, and that's why it's so important that that I am contributing if I'm not going to be scoring in certain games. But it is nice to obviously to score the goals, but the most important thing is 3 points.
I was sitting beside a real Waterford FC fan in the stand, and he was waxing lyrical about you. He loves you. Just before I let you go, 2 questions. Firstly, do you remember when your last hat-trick was?
My last hat-trick would have been in England, and I think it was at Grimsby. I think. Wow. I scored a lot of braces. Yeah. I think my last hat-trick in the League of Ireland was against, I'm going to say, Bray in 2010.
Was that for Rovers?
Sligo Rovers, yeah.
Sligo Rovers,
wow, yeah. I think it was against Bray. I think it was against Bray up in the showgrounds.
Well, that's nice to get another one. And last question, and I imagine you're going to say you love it because you've scored a hat-trick, but Thursday night football, is there any difference in preparation? Do you think it's something that can work, should work, you'd like to see more of? What's your view on it?
I really like the standalone fixtures. I think it gives another night of standalone football for the league, which is really important. The league has grown a lot recently, and there's a lot of great publicity going about it, which is brilliant. So yeah. I'm all for it. I think having those games, especially at this time of the year when there isn't that much on, and it's not clashing with something else on a Friday or a Saturday when there might be other sports in Ireland that are on. So there's not much on of a Thursday night. So all for it for me. Yeah.
Padraig, thank you, but more so thanks to Killian for his patience and Owen, who's running off there, for his patience. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Always great to speak to Padraig Amond and family. Now, Kevin Doherty, the Drogheda United manager, was very disappointed after the game. He spoke to LMFM's David Sheehan. I stuck the microphone in on this to save Kevin doing a second interview. He would have done it, by the way. He would have done it, no problem, but why put him through even more torture? Anyway, this is what Kevin had to say to David.
Again, when you're a manager or a coach, you want to have all the answers, but in that particular one, straight away after the game, like, how could anybody know? is the content. We have spoken. I think we have covered every single angle on why we could be letting stuff like that happen to us. But like as I said, when the goals go in like they go in tonight, how can you even try and come up with a word to explain how disappointing it was? Like, I'm forever saying about these players and how much I love them and all, like, but I feel really, really let down by that tonight.
Is that the first time you felt let down by this group? And I know, again, you're not trying to pin it on any individuals, but you're always so positive. But it's when this is happening week in, week out, it's bound to wear you down, and the players and the coaching staff and everybody.
Of course, yeah. Yeah. But as I said, we have to call it out. And I'm sure, like, I mean, I could accept it more if I felt, and it's not that I get every decision right all the time. Like, I mean, there's a couple the other night that I look back on and I was thinking, but like, you can't go from what we do in the first half with that personnel, with that strategy, with that system, with that desire to head the ball, to kick the ball, to clear the ball, to then go out there the second half and go like another goal up. You can't, like, imagine I had to change something there, or even substitutes, or you'd have been absolutely ridiculous because it was working so well. But then something clicks, and as I said, yeah, it's very, very disappointing. And at times, looking at it, I'd be like, it seems like a harsh word to say, but I'd be embarrassed to think that's my side defending like that.
Kevin Doherty, the Drogheda manager, not particularly happy with how his team played in the second half of Thursday night's 4-2 defeat to Waterford. The Thursday night thing, I think, could work, by the way. If you put football on the telly, people will watch it, but you have to do it regularly. I think the fans enjoyed themselves as well. Again, probably helped by the fact that we got a very decent game. Well, certainly a very decent second half. And the weather was good as well, and that improves everything, doesn't it? Right, let's round everything up. Of course, Thursday night, Waterford beating Drogheda by 4-2. On Friday night, Bohemians 2, St. Pat's 2, Derry City 2, Sligo Rovers 2, Galway United 2, Dundalk 0, and Shamrock Rovers 0, Shelbourne 2. John Daly was saying after the game to LOI TV that he only met the players at 4 o'clock that afternoon. So the John Daly effect not exactly hitting yet. Galway playing St. Pat's next week, so we'll be hearing from them then. So don't be complaining that you didn't hear from Galway this week. We've heard from them a lot this season as well. Let's go through the table. We've mentioned it already, but let's just reconfirm. Shelbourne on top on 37 points, Derry second on 31 points, Shamrock Rovers third on 28 points, Galway fourth on 27 points, but they have 2 games in hand on the top 3. Waterford in 5th on 25 points. They were 4th thanks to that win last night, but they've been overtaken by Galway now. They also have 2 games in hand on the top 3. Bohemians 6th on 24 points. They've played 17 games. St. Pat's have played 19 games, and they're on 20 points. They're 4 points behind both. St. Pat's in 7th. Sligo Rovers just 1 point behind St. Pat's thanks to that 2-2 draw away in Derry. They're on 19 points, and they have 2 games less played than St. Pat's. Drogheda, second from bottom on 15 points, looking nervously behind them at Dundalk, who are bottom on 12 points, but they now have a new manager who is in place. He wasn't technically in charge, I think, in Galway, but he will be in charge next week. Who will they play? That's not me pausing for tension, I just can't remember, but we'll go through it in a second. I'll have it in front of me. Before that, the first division results from Friday night at Lone Town 2, UCD 2, Cork City 1, Treaty United 1, Kerry 2, Finn Harps 0, that's a huge win for the Kingdom, and Wexford 1, Bray Wanderers 2, Bray Wanderers, who lost their manager during the week. The table in the first division, Cork City still 10 points clear. Having played 17 games, they're on 39 points, UCD second on 29 points, Athlone third on 27, Wexford 4th on 25, Finn Harps 5th on 25, Bray Wanderers 6th on 24, Cove Ramblers 7th on 18, but they've played 1 game less than all the teams above them. Treaty United 8th on 15 points, Kerry 9th on 12 points, and Longford bottom of the pile on 10 points. Tomorrow's fixtures in the Women's Premier Division, Shelbourne by tomorrow I mean Saturday. If you're listening to this on Saturday morning, that will make sense. If you're listening on Monday morning, then, well, you know this was recorded on Friday night. Do I really need to explain that? No, I don't think so. but I just did anyway. Right, at 2 o'clock on Saturday in the Women's Premier Division, Shelbourne hosting Cork City. At 5, Peamount against DLR Waves. At 6, Wexford take on Treaty. At 7, Sligo Rovers are up against Athlone. And at 7:35, Shamrock Rovers meet Galway United. In the First Division tomorrow, in the Men's First Division, Longford take on Cove Ramblers. Kick-off is at 7:30. At the table, by the way, in the Women's Premier Division, sees Galway on top on 16 points. Shelbourne second on 15 points, but they have played a game more. Athlone third on 13 points. Peamount fourth on 13 points. Cork City fifth on 10 points. Treaty United sixth on 8 points. Bowes seventh on 7 points. Wexford eighth on 4 points. Shamrock Rovers third from bottom on 4 points. Didn't see that coming before the season. Sligo Rovers second from bottom on 3, and DLR Waves bottom of the pile on 2 points. Are there games on Sunday in any of the top divisions? No, there's not. There is a Leinster Senior Cup quarter-final at 7:45 on Monday night. Bray Wanderers taking on St. Pat's. And let's flick forward to Friday. I'm just scanning through to see if there was any other games randomly on Wednesday, Thursday or Tuesday. There isn't. So next Friday night, it's Drogheda United against Shamrock Rovers, Dundalk against Derry City, Sligo Rovers take on Shelbourne. They're away in that game. St. Pat's welcome Galway, and Waterford meet Bowes. In the First Division, Athlone Town play Cork City. Cove Ramblers are up against Kerry. Finn Harps meet Wexford. Treaty United take on Longford, and UCD welcome Bray Wanderers. That's it for the Extratime.com League of Ireland Voice Notes podcast. Now you know what I'm going to ask you next. If you can please like and subscribe, you'd be helping us out. You'd be doing us a favour. You'll help us jump up the charts. Sponsorship opportunities are available, by the way. We are open to that. And you can get the contact details through extratime.com, or you can get me directly on @Oisin Langan. Luke will be along with a deep dive into everything that's happening in the league at some point early next week, maybe Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. And of course, I'll be back Saturday morning with another Extratime.com League of Ireland Voice Notes podcast. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye bye.